Being a showrunner, yeah, it's the goal, but it is a lot of work. And I'm a social person and I like to have a life outside of work. And being a showrunner, you can't. And it is just a lot of fucking work. Can I curse on here? Sorry.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Hassiem Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, where we discuss the essential qualities you need to stand out in the entertainment industry. A crucial point of debate during the writer strike of 2023 was around the minimum staffing of a writer's room, how many writers the guild requires to be employed on any given project. But what even is a writer's room? What goes down in this room where it happens? And who's responsible for the 10 pages of sides I had for my last audition? Joining me this week to give us a behind the scenes look into a Hollywood writer's room is Sienna Lorraine. Sienna is currently a writer's assistant at Lionsgate and has worked on projects like Netflix's No Good Deed, The Upshaws, and Survival of the Thickest, as well as STARZ Power Book 3, Raising Kanan. Sienna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, first question, because actors, we hear about this writer's room and like this is the place where all the magic happens and stuff. What is a writer's room?
A writer's room a writer's room is basically a whole bunch of people sitting around, getting free lunch, getting free sex, and they literally discuss and break down what's going to happen in the series. Um, it's an amazing, comfortable job. Uh, the higher you get, the more responsibility you have. Um, and you're literally just sitting around a table or on a couch and you're all just discussing what's going to happen to these characters. It's the best job in the world, even though I just sit there and I type all the notes, but still, it's being in a writer's room is amazing. It's I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. The feeling of it, you're creating something. Like this is literally like where it starts. But besides like pitching and development, but like this is literally where it starts. And to see it like come from like the writer's room to the end of the season and production and everything is like the best feeling in the world. So I hope that answered the question. But you're literally sitting around and you're discussing what's gonna happen to the characters, basically.
Well, shoot, sounds like I'm in the wrong part of the business. Okay, I would love to sit around and build some stories.
You just sit
Uh,
around and talk all day. It's great. If you love to talk, then maybe you need to get into writer's room.
that's what's up. I do. We're on a podcast. I love to talk. Clearly.
Well, you might need to hop onto the writer's side. We'll talk after.
Okay. So all right, you're working as an assistant. Could you say what show you're currently working on?
Yeah, so I'm a writer's assistant currently on the spinoff of the spinoff. So Raising Kanan was a spinoff of Power. And I am currently working on the spinoff of Raising Kanan and Power. It's called Origins. I believe I can say the name because my boss has done interviews and the name. I'll double check that, but he has. So there's
No,
that.
they've announced this project. I saw
Yeah.
a couple
No,
months ago. Yeah.
they've announced it like a year ago.
Mhm.
But just because they announce it doesn't mean you can talk, but he's been on podcasts and stuff, and, like, people know that we're in the room. So, yes, I
Heard.
am a but sometimes I just like to say I'm a writer's assistant on another spinoff of Power. But, yeah, it's called
Heard.
Origins, and we're in the writer's room currently. Yeah, we
Sick.
are working. Mhm.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Now,
Yeah.
your job as an assistant, you just
Mhm.
said you take a lot of notes. Um, do you get any creative input? Do you, like kind of throw in, whenever you're chatting it up with whoever you're assisting to be like, hey, this is an idea I have.
Yeah, I can. I just feel like because my boss knows this world, so he also worked on the original Power too, so he just knows this world really, really well, and we just have a lot of, experienced and super smart writers that I low key don't even have to. Um, But as a writer's assistant, I do have to, like, help track things and stuff. So, if I do ever speak up in this room particularly, I will be like, "Hey, like, I remember we talked about this," and, like, remind them of these other things. I don't necessarily pitch in this room because they don't really need it, and when you're a writer's assistant, you're so focused on taking the notes and hearing what everybody else is saying that you don't really have time to do that. But when I was in, like, comedy rooms and I was a showrunner's assistant, oh, yeah, I would 100% pitch because pitching jokes is so different than, like, pitching stories. I think I had, like, 2 or 3 jokes make it to air. So that's
Oh,
cool. Yeah, I know,
that
right?
is
So
cool.
that's cool. But yeah, I think comedy's a little bit different. It's definitely more collaborative. Um, with drama, you're really focusing on like the characters and what's going on. And I feel like comedy rooms are a little bit more carefree and a lot more people can pitch and stuff. Um, but yeah, if I want to pitch, I can though. And that's the blessing to be in a room that's just very inclusive. And if I think of something, sure, I'll say something. But I'm just trying to do a good job as a writer's assistant.
That's what's up. Which leads to my
Yeah.
next question. I'm sure you're just trying to do a good job because obviously you don't want to be an assistant forever.
Yeah.
So, what does a trajectory look like for a writer in LA?
Yeah, I mean, I even though I went to grad school, for writing, I still, started off as an assistant, and I would still recommend everybody to do that because as an assistant, I like to call it like a training camp, a boot camp for being a writer, producer, showrunner, because you really get to see everything versus, yeah, if you're just like you win a fellowship or you go to grad school and you automatically get in a writer's room, like that's cool. But when you're an assistant, you kind of get to observe and to quote my dad, like, "You're a sponge." Like, you're just soaking up everything that's happening so that when you're finally a staff writer or a showrunner, you'll know what to do. Because I think a lot of writers say this day of, like, there's no there's no training anymore. Like, back in the day, it was like, you started off as a writer's PA and you would really move your way up, and now a lot of shows aren't getting that many seasons. So yeah, you can't really move up and stuff like that. So I think, especially nowadays, like being an assistant, even though, the pay is not the best, but uh it's not. But hopefully if you play your cards right and you work hard, you'll be able to move up. Cause that's what happened to me. I was a showrunner's assistant on Raising Kanan and then I spoke up and now I'm a writer's assistant on the next show. So
Hey. So
yeah.
is showrunner the goal for you? Because I know like in TV, the landscape has changed so much where like
Yeah.
there are a lot more writers who are showrunners than were in that position 10, 15 years
Hmm.
ago.
Yeah, I think it was my goal. And it still is, like, I mean, ultimately, if you're the showrunner, you're the creator of the show. That's not necessarily typical for everybody, but it is typical for, like, if you created the show, you become the showrunner, and being a showrunner, yeah, it's the goal, but it is a lot of work, and, I'm a social person, and I like to have a life outside of work, and being a showrunner, you can't. And it is just a lot of fucking work. Can I curse on here? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, why not?
The fact
Yeah.
that I just started cursing 10 minutes in is kinda crazy,
It's
because I
gonna be
love
that
to
kind of
curse.
episode, folks. No, stop.
Um, but yeah, I mean, being like a co-EP, which is technically like a number 2 to a showrunner is cool. I mean, at this point, it's like, I'll take what I can get, If someone taps me to be a showrunner in, like, the next 5, 10 years, I'll do it. But because I've seen all the work that goes into it, I'm kind of like, okay, being like a number 2 guy is, like, what I want to ultimately do. I but it's also like you want your own vision, you wanna create
Yeah,
your own stuff, of course, but there is a beauty in helping other people create their stuff too. Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And like I I think it's kind of admirable that you're so candid about where you really want to end up.
Mhm.
You're not saying just the textbook answer, "I'm a writer in LA, I
Right.
wanna be a showrunner." No, you're being honest. You're
Mhm.
like and
Yeah.
that's at least what I'm hearing, that's been the benefit of being a writer's assistant and being in that room because you get to see what everyone really does.
Yeah.
I know for actors, so much of, our time in school and stuff is people telling us what to expect. But until you're on set, you know, I was
Mhm.
I did an episode of FBI, and one of the
Mhm.
big takeaways that I got was watching those series regulars because,
Mhm.
that's been a dream of mine for years.
Of course. Yeah.
And it was kinda trippy when they walked onto set. It was like the whole air changed,
Yeah.
you know? And I was talking with the director, she was giving me some, like, adjustment on the scene we're working on, and then the series regulars arrived, and all of a sudden, it was like the power dynamic shifted,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh, yo, it's like that. Okay." And listen, some people, that's not where they need to end up.
Yeah.
Like, some people don't need to be the lead of a thing, and it's not because they're not good enough, but there's a lot of other jobs that need people to fill them, a lot of other roles, and if that's what you can
Mhm.
do best, do you.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I had to stop having that dream of only being an actor. Um,
Mhm.
because y'all are like the last people to come on. Not everybody, but I'm
No,
such a
it's
l
true.
it's true. I'm such a leader and, like, I just feel like I wanna do more than just show up and say lines and leave. And first of all, being an actor is very hard. It's not easy, you know? But yeah, I just feel like being a writer and just being on even like just the production side, you have a little bit more of like because you're there ultimately all the time, you know. I feel like as an actor, sometimes like you're in for a day and then you leave, unless you're like a series regular or whatever, of course. But it's just like I don't know. I wanted to lead a little bit, and that's also to your point to what you said before of like it's not just being a showrunner. I want to leave a legacy. I was actually just talking about this at the event I was at. I was like, they were like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I want to leave a legacy. Like I want to be like Amara Bracca Of course, she's a showrunner and she creates all these shows, but I want to give back. I want to like, help other writers coming in, especially other writers that went to the same school that I did and the same program that I did. I wanna bring them up and also, of course, Black people, everything I do is for my people, so, I wanna bring them up too, but it's like, if I wanna do that, I'm gonna have to get the big bucks, which is ultimately showrunner. Um, but yeah, it's like, I just wanna give back. I wanna have scholarships. I wanna do all this other stuff, and in order to do that, I do need to be one of the tippy top people, and I think I can do that as a co-EP. I don't have to be a showrunner, but still, even just producing and helping other people bring their own visions to life,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just wanna help other people even though I'm not there yet, but we'll get there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you will. I mean,
Yeah,
you've been killing it.
yeah,
Now,
thank you.
something I wanna hit on is this actors slash writers, actors as writers, if you
Yeah.
will,
Yes.
or actors as creators. Because I feel like I'm seeing a lot more when the credits roll at the end of a show or a film watching. I notice a lot of the stars that are attached to the project have those
Yeah.
EP credits.
Oh, yeah.
From somebody who's been in the room, what is that landscape like? I feel like now more than ever, actors are positioning themselves in that role as number 2 in the room, and so they're able to help craft a world that they wanna play in as actors.
I think it's smart. I think it's smart. I think it's more money too, first of all. But also I think I feel like even like 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was like you were in a box. It's like if you're an actor, you stay an actor. You don't try to dabble into anything else. And I feel like because of social media and just the content creator world, and also we all need money. So it's like you kind of have to dabble in to other stuff. And also I listen to a lot of podcasts with like showrunners being interviewed and writers, and they're all like, it's good for even writers to take, like, an acting class or an improv class. It's like I just feel like it's gonna make you a better artist if you are more familiar with all the different departments. you know? So even when I'm on set and I look at, like, the gaffers and the grips, I'm like, "What do you guys do?" Like, they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, "What do you guys do?" Like, I just wanna know, you know what I mean? I just feel like it
Yeah.
makes you a better artist if you are familiar with more than one thing. A lot of bosses have started off as assistants, and those bosses are always the best because they've been in your shoes before, you know what I mean? Like, they know what it's like to be an assistant. Back in the day, it was probably even worse because now we have technology. Um, but I just feel like if you can, because not every actor can be a producer, but I do think that it's smart and you just learn another side of things. And you might even be like, whoa, I love producing. I kind of want to do this more. There's a couple of actors. I mean, Will Ferrell is one of those guys of like, he's been producing so many TV shows, and obviously he was in the Barbie movie, but still, like, he's producing stuff and he has his own production company and everything. I think it's definitely lucrative for financial wise, of course, because in this economy, the tariffs, you need it, right? Um, but also I think it'll just make you a better artist, just seeing a different side of everything and really seeing how this is made. I think it'll also will have you'll have more respect for the crew and the ADs and, the costume designers and everything, and that's been one of the best parts of being an assistant, and not every assistant gets to go on all the meetings, um, but I guess because we have Zoom meetings, I'm able to go to, like, the production meetings, the art meetings and stuff, and I just see what everybody else is doing, and it's like, "Oh, shit," like, there's so much that goes into it, and I think it just humbles you too, and also it'll make you realize if you really love this industry and love what you're doing, or I feel like if you don't really care and you're just in your own world, then, you don't really love this because being in this industry, you gotta love everything. I'm not saying you have to do everything, but you have to have a respect for everybody that comes together to put a show on.
I couldn't agree more. You have to have respect for everybody, and that's a big reason why I asked you to be on this show. You know,
Mhm.
it's a show for actors, but I'm someone who really values getting the perspective of everybody who
Mhm.
helps to create these projects that we all dream of being a part of. I'm like,
Yeah.
if you can understand the writer's job better, if you can understand the cinematographer's job better, I think about making choices on camera, and
Mhm.
I see other actors who are really good at this where they'll hit a beat a certain way, which will give a nice point for the editor to edit.
Yeah.
It's like if you just keep moving the entire time and you never find any stillness in the frame, like the editor's gonna hate you. And it's just one of those little details that like matters. But if you've never spoken to an editor before,
Mhm.
how would you know that? Or actors sometimes like to be really flippant with the text, which I'm curious to get your perspective on this.
Oof.
And
Yeah.
I imagine if you talk
Lots
to
of
a
thoughts.
writer or if you've been a writer, well, let's hear those thoughts. How precious is the language? How precious is the text?
I think it I think it depends on the showrunner and the writer. Um, I don't wanna speak for my boss, but I know that we are very, like, stay to the text. I think comedy and drama is a little different, though. I think comedy, we kind of like improv if it works, and a lot of the time, especially sitcoms, like, the writers will be on the side coming up with alts and different jokes and stuff. So you kind of have more room to explore versus a drama. It's like, listen, if it's on the page, know it. Um, but I think it just depends on the person. I mean, when I do my little web series, but they were also comedies, I didn't mind for people to kind of, you know, come up with their own stuff as long as it's like similar to the text. Cause I think it's also like just a respect of like so much time goes into writing these scripts, especially dramas. Like, I mean, that's an hour, that's 60 pages. So I think ultimately it's more of respect for the people that have worked hours and hours and hours. It's like memorize the fucking lines. Um, but I do think if there is a line that like kind of feels weird and you're like, hey, can I just change this to can't instead of cannot. I mean, I think that's okay because, you guys are the ones that are, like, bringing it to life and we want it to feel natural, but I think it's more of a respect thing of just like, listen, like, people worked hard on these scripts, and there's been many rewrites and stuff, and just memorize the lines, but I do think maybe in comedy there's a little bit more leeway for sure, I know I love that. I loved when people improv, especially if it's good, and if we're not gonna use it, we're not gonna use it. Um, but I think it ultimately depends on who's running the show and what they want, and also just being, like, respectful about it too, like, "Oh, I hate these fucking lines." Well, don't say that because then Imma make you gonna fucking say what I said for you to say, but if you're just like, this is just not feeling right for me, it's a mouthful or something," then it's like, "Yeah, okay, like, let's change it?" I mean, it's all a collaborative process, of course, but I think just knowing, like, a lot of work goes into writing these scripts, and like I said, the rewrites and stuff, so it's just more of a respect thing, I feel like,
Absolutely.
and also but it just depends on the person. I don't know, listen, I'm not
No,
like
you're
a
not speaking for
Ryan
everybody.
Murphy or something, I don't know, maybe they're like, "You need to say what the fuck we wrote," but I feel like for me, because I'm also an actor though too, and this is goes back to what I said of, like, everybody should kind of know what each department does. Because I'm an actor, if someone's like, this isn't feeling right," I understand that because
Right.
I feel that when I'm acting. I'm like, I don't like how this sounds." So it's like, I get it. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, bet." But it's like, if you've never taken an acting class or never even done anything close to that, then
Yeah.
yeah, you might not understand and you might be like, "Oh, well, I don't care." Like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm also an actor, it's like, "Okay, I get it. Like, let's see what we can do to fix it and make it feel more comfortable and more natural."
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Now, from the actor's perspective, why can't we get a script for the audition? I just did a tape 30
Mhm.
minutes ago, 45 minutes ago,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I got the call last night. It's
Mhm.
due tomorrow morning, which means
Mhm.
I have to do it today.
Yes.
um, and it's a couple pages, and they
Mhm.
said no script available at this time.
Mhm.
I feel like I could do my job a lot better if I had the script. Why can't we get the scripts?
I think sometimes the scripts aren't ready. Like, they're still being written, it's still being looked over. I don't fully know the answer, but just from what I've seen, there's that. And then also there's, like, confidentiality stuff, like, sometimes you think you're auditioning for one thing, and then it's revealed that it's, a fucking Spielberg project or something. I don't know. Like, I think
Mm,
there's so many different reasons, but I feel like also too well, I know, like, once you, like, get the role and stuff, it's more of like, we don't need your input, you know what I'm saying? So there's that, but I do think sometimes the scripts just aren't fully ready yet, maybe they're still being ironed out with the network or they're still being, like, rewritten and stuff, um, but also too, it's like and I get that 100% because sometimes I'm like, "I don't even know what this is about," um
yeah.
but maybe too, it's more of, like, interesting to see, like, what the actor can come up with too of, like, what's your take of it? I think maybe, like, the writers and, like, the showrunner can see that and be like, "Oh, okay, well, that's what they thought? Okay, that's interesting." You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I don't know the correct answer, but I do think that it's more of shit's still getting done behind the scenes, that's why. Like, from
Heard.
what I've seen, I think that's the main reason why, like, maybe it's
Mhm.
just not ready. Because, like I said, y'all are the last people to, like, really come on and, like, get this thing rolling, so
Yeah.
that's what I think. Like I said, I'm not sure, but also too, I mean, think about it, like, if they send, like, a fucking 90-page script and the audition's due tomorrow, you're not trying to read that shit and send it, like, that's too much, like, no, like,
But
just
I
you know what I
but
mean?
I could read the first 10 pages and understand, like, kind of what the story, like, how it's being set. I
Yes and
can s
no. Yeah, yes and no, though, because if your character is only at the end or some shit, like, that it's not but that's what I'm saying, like,
Mhm.
I don't think it's ready, and I also think there's confidentiality stuff, there's NDA type shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's more of a technical reason for it, and then also, it's none of your business too, like, you don't need to know, like, shit's
Wait,
still getting worked on.
hold on a second, hold on a second. If Imma hold up. I'm Imma push back for us. So, if if we're the ones who ultimately have to tell the story and our faces are gonna be on
Mhm,
screen, and ultimately we're putting in a lot of time and effort for these
mhm,
I know an audition is like a singular audition is kinda just a spec, but
mhm.
most actors, especially if they have representation, it's hundreds of auditions, and over a
No,
career,
yeah, it's
it's
a
thousands
lot.
of auditions, and
Mhm,
it's a lot, and you get a call from your agent, and they're like, "You got a tape due," and you have to stop everything you're doing and find a reader and all of this stuff, and
mhm,
I can't speak for all actors. I will say, I have talked to a few folks, and myself included, sometimes it's like, "Man, just a little bit more information would make me feel like I could do my job better."
mhm, mhm,
Now, there's a question in there, which is how realistic is it? You said that, maybe an actor will do something that was unexpected. How often have you seen where, like, an actor will take something a different direction and the team goes, "Oh, shoot, actually, yeah, let's roll with that." Because as you said, if it's still unfinished, maybe there's a little malleability in there. I just know
mhm.
that there's often pressure for us to feel like we wanna make sure we're telling the appropriate story, and we just don't get enough information to
Yeah,
do so.
yeah, I get that. I don't really watch the casting stuff. I've only listened to, like, interviews with
Mhm.
people, and sometimes like, also, like, with actors that do, like, end up booking roles either for, like, commercials or TV, it's like, typically, when I see, like, their audition and then they got it, it's like, "Oh, they got it because they really went all out," type shit, you know what I mean? Um, I think like I said, I don't really know the logistics of all that, but like I said, I do think, like I know, like, when we're in the writer's room, maybe if, like, scripts aren't even written yet, we're still sending stuff out and, like, it's just not done yet, or it's not finalized yet. So that's what I personally think, and
And that's fair,
I feel
and
like
that
I
makes
feel like
sense.
casting will know that even better than, like, the writers, because typically writers aren't a part of that process at all.
Mhm.
I only see some stuff because I'm his assistant, or I was his assistant, but, um, that's definitely more of, like, a casting and, like, producer question. But
Sure.
from what I've seen, it is just giving, like, the less the better, because of confidentiality stuff, and, you just don't I don't it's not about y'all not being able to, um, understand the character and the world and stuff. I
Mhm.
don't think it's that. I think it's other stuff
And that's
because
fair, and
obviously,
that's fair.
yeah, like, we would but also it moves so fast, like,
Yeah,
sometimes you don't have time to do all that. It's like, "Alright, look, do you
yeah,
get it or not?" Because obviously we've seen auditions of, like,
yeah.
you only
Because
have
somebody gonna get it.
5 pages and they get it, and that's what you want too. Because I feel like then
Yeah.
if everybody gets the 10 pages, then they'll all be able to understand, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, like, I'm not really sure, but I do
No,
I do think it's more of a logistics thing than that, yeah. Because
and that's
there's
fair.
been some sides that I've seen, I don't remember what it was for, but there was one audition that I did, and it was like it was great. I was like, "Oh, this is a writer-actor or something," because it gave, like, a little bit of, action and information and, like, who the characters are and stuff. But like I said, sometimes I think they don't want you to know because then you're gonna be like, "Oh, like, this is" I don't know why I keep on saying Will Ferrell, but, like, "This is for Will Ferrell, like, let me be like this character." I think it also can help you guys too of, like, you know that this is for Mara Brockagil and it's a comedy, so Imma be like Joan and Girlfriend. Like, no, like, I think it also helps for you to be imaginative and be creative and come up with your own character versus what you've seen on TV and all, especially now with, like, social media and streaming and everything. Everybody's seen everything, you know what I mean? So I do think that it also can help you. because then
Yeah.
it's like everybody's gonna be doing the same type of thing if you know the first 10 pages and stuff like that. So that's how I
Yeah.
look at it that way instead of just, like, doing you a disservice, which it does. I'm not saying that it doesn't, like, it does
No,
fucking suck.
I like I love the direction that this just went because I feel like your response is in some ways comforting, where it's like it's not even about us.
Yeah,
It's
I think so.
a
I'm not sure,
yeah.
but that's what it's kinda giving for me.
Yeah. Well, because like, I mean, a writer, to be fair, that script, like, as precious as we are with our performance, they're precious that's their performance,
Yeah.
and they're precious with
Yeah.
their work, and when I want anybody to see an unfinished piece of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
like, that's fair, and
Yeah.
I can respect it's frustrating,
Mhm.
but I can respect it,
Yeah, no,
um,
100%.
and as
100%.
far as confidentiality, totally makes
There's
sense.
that
As
stuff, there's
far as
legal stuff,
all
there's,
that makes
like,
sense. Yeah.
so much other stuff that I do not know that's above my pay grade too, so, like I said, like, maybe a casting person can answer that better, but it's like, I think there's just so much other stuff too,
Yeah.
that has to do with it, but Imma go with that. I think
No,
that's good, and
no, your
just
response
remember
makes
that
sense.
the next time you audition that I don't it's not you, it's, everybody else.
It could be anything.
It
It
could be
it could be anything.
anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
make a big, bold choice. Um,
Yeah, oh my god, always do that, like, get into the character as much as you fucking can. That's what I've and also being on the writer's side, I feel like has made me even a better actor too of like, "Oh shit, when I audition." But when I do, it's like, okay, like, I know to make big choices. I know to, like, try to dress the part. I know to have props. Like, I know that I wanna make these people see me in their world. Because if it's just backdrop and you in a T-shirt, I'm not saying that you can't not get it because it be like that, but I feel like if you really wanna fucking stand out and you want this shit and you love this and you're gonna have fun, I feel like have some fun with it, be creative, I like I said, I just interviews and different TikToks I've seen of, like, people being like, the audition, and then when they book the role, it's like, "Oh, yeah, you booked the role because you had the props, you had like, we
Mhm,
could see the vision, and I feel like,
mhm,
especially now, that's what you need because people are seeing so many people, and same with writers too. So many writers are submitting these samples. It's like, look, it's gotta pop out right away because there's just too many fucking talented people. Um,
mhm.
so that's what I've learned from the internet. And obviously, like, if you got it, you just got it too.
Yeah,
But get into the world, and I feel like the more fun you have with it, the more fun it is, and more likely you'll get it, I feel like, you know what I mean?
heard.
Yeah.
Man, Sienna, thank you so much. I know you have someplace to be tonight because you
Yeah.
you be out here networking and meeting all these people, and but listen,
Listen,
that's why, at least from afar, it appears as if your career has been doing so well.
yeah, thank you,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, I've
I'm
just loved
trying.
watching you, and you're not trying, you're doing it, you're doing it.
Thank
Um,
you, thank you,
yeah, I've got no doubt that you will be number 2 someday.
thank you. Yeah,
You
number 2.
got it, you got it. Let's be clear, number 2. Number 1's too
Number
much work.
2.
Number 2.
Imma
Uh,
probably end up number 1 though, but at least
damn
for
it.
right now,
Ugh.
number
Sienna, um, thank you so much. Thank you for giving us this inside scoop and a look into the writer's
Yes,
room. This has been a
yes.
special one. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Likewise, yeah. Guys, if you enjoyed this conversation with Sienna, then you'll love a recent interview I did with writer Robert O'Hara. So be sure to check that out. Thank you all so much for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. Please like, subscribe, give us a follow wherever you're tuning in, and we'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.